The desert dust still clung to Captain Ethan Caldwell's boots as he stepped off the bus, his duffel bag slung over one shoulder, heart pounding with the promise of home. 2 years, 730 days, had stretched into an eternity of gunfire, sweat, and letters from his little brother, Jamie. That kept him sane. But now, standing on the cracked pavement of Willow Creek, Ohio, Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn air. No one was there to greet him. The street was silent, the kind of quiet that screamed something was wrong. Ethan's family, his stoic father, his warm mother, and Jamie, the kid who'd always been his shadow, should have been waiting. He'd pictured it 1,000 times, Jamie's gap-toothed grin, his mother's tearful hug, even his father's rare nod of approval. Instead, the bus pulled away, leaving him alone with the fading echo of its engine. His phone buzzed in his pocket, but the screen showed no missed calls, no texts. Just a single email from an old high school friend. Tommy, sent hours ago. Ethan, you need to get home. It's about Jamie. His stomach twisted. He slung the duffel tighter and started the mile-long walk to the house he'd grown up in. A modest 2-story with a wraparound porch and a flagpole his father saluted every morning. Willow Creek hadn't changed much, same picket fences, same corner store with its faded Coca-Cola sign. But the air felt heavier now, like it carried secrets he hadn't been told. Ethan quickened his pace, the email's vague warning gnawing at him. Jamie was 17 now, a senior in high school, probably still doodling in notebooks and sneaking extra cookies from Mom's jar. What could have happened? The house came into view, its windows dark despite the early evening hour. Ethan's boots thudded against the porch steps, and he knocked, half expecting Jamie to fling the door open like he always did. Nothing. He knocked again, harder, then tried the handle. Locked. His key still worked, though, and the door creaked open to a house that felt more like a museum than a home. The living room was pristine, the couch cushions untouched, the air stale. Mom? Dad? His voice echoed. No answer. He dropped his bag and climbed the stairs, his combat-honed instincts screaming that something was off. Jamie's room was at the end of the hall, its door ajar. Ethan pushed it open and froze. The room was gutted. No posters of indie bands. No scattered sketchbooks. No trace of the kid who'd once covered the walls with glow-in-the-dark stars. Just a bare mattress and an empty closet. His heart slammed against his ribs. Where was Jamie? Downstairs. The back door creaked. Ethan spun, hand instinctively reaching for a sidearm he no longer carried. Who's there? He called, descending the stairs 2 at a time. In the kitchen, his mother stood, her face pale, a dish towel twisted in her hands. Ethan, she whispered, eyes wide. You're home. Where's Jamie? The question came out sharper than he meant, but the panic was clawing at him now. His mother's gaze dropped to the floor, and the silence was worse than any answer. Mom, where is he? He's gone, she said, her voice breaking. Your father, he couldn't handle it. Jamie told us he's gay. Ethan. Your father lost it. Said no son of his would live like that. He threw him out 3 months ago. The words hit like shrapnel. Ethan staggered back, gripping the counter. Threw him out? He's 17. Mom, where'd he go? I don't know. Her eyes filled with tears. I tried to stop it, but your father, he was so angry. Jamie left with nothing. I've been looking for him, but he won't answer my calls. Ethan's vision blurred, rage and guilt colliding. He'd been halfway across the world, dodging bullets, while his little brother was cast out like trash. And you let it happen? He snapped, hating the hurt in her eyes, but unable to stop. You let Dad kick him out. I didn't know what to do, she sobbed. I thought he'd come back. Where's Dad? Ethan cut her off, already moving toward the door. At the VFW hall. But Ethan. Wait. He didn't. The Veterans of Foreign Wars Hall was a 10-minute walk, and Ethan covered it in 7. His breath sharp in his lungs. The hall was a squat brick building, its lot filled with pickup trucks and American flags. Inside, the air smelled of beer and cigarette smoke, and his father, Robert Caldwell, sat at the bar, laughing with a group of old-timers. The sight of him, calm, carefree, while Jamie was God knows where, lit a fuse in Ethan's chest. Dad, he said, voice low but cutting through the noise. Robert turned, his smile faltering as he saw Ethan's face. Outside. Now, Robert followed, his broad shoulders hunched, as if he already knew what was coming. In the parking lot, under the flicker of a street lamp, Ethan didn't hold back. You kicked Jamie out? Your own son? For what? Because he's gay? Robert's jaw tightened. He made his choice. Ethan. I raised you boys to be men. Not what? Ethan stepped closer, fists clenched. Not himself. You threw a kid onto the street because he was honest with you. It's not natural, Robert spat. I won't have it in my house. Ethan laughed, bitter and cold. You think I came back from war to find my family torn apart by your bullshit? Where is he? Dad, where's Jamie? Robert looked away, his silence a confession. Ethan's heart sank. His father didn't know either. Without another word, Ethan turned and walked away, the weight of 730 days pressing harder than ever. He had to find Jamie, whatever it took. Ethan spent the next morning scouring Willow Creek. He checked Jamie's favorite spots, the library where he'd hide with graphic novels, the diner where he'd charm waitresses for free fries. Nothing. By noon, he was desperate, so he called Tommy, the friend who'd sent the email. Tommy met him at the park, his face grim. Jamie's been crashing with a guy named Liam, Tommy said. Some artist. Lives in a loft downtown. I saw them together a few weeks ago. Jamie looked rough. Liam. Ethan frowned. The name didn't ring a bell. You got an address? Tommy hesitated. It's not a great part of town. Man. Be careful. The address led Ethan to a crumbling warehouse district, where graffiti-covered buildings loomed like ghosts of the town's industrial past. The loft was on the 3rd floor of a converted factory, its windows grimy but glowing with warm light. Ethan knocked, his pulse racing. The door opened, and a lanky guy with paint-splattered jeans and a mop of dark hair stood there, eyeing him warily. Yeah, I'm looking for Jamie Caldwell, Ethan said, trying to keep his voice steady. I'm his brother, the guy Liam, presumably, studied him for a long moment before stepping aside. He's here, inside. The loft was a chaotic mix of canvases, paint cans, and mismatched furniture. Jamie sat on a threadbare couch, his knees pulled to his chest, looking smaller than Ethan remembered. His hair was longer, his face thinner, but his eyes, those same bright blue eyes, lit up when he saw Ethan. Ethan, he whispered, scrambling to his feet. Ethan crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled Jamie into a hug, holding tight as if he could erase the last 3 months. "I'm here, kid," he murmured. "I'm so sorry." Jamie clung to him, shaking. "I thought you'd hate me too." "Never," Ethan said fiercely. "Not in a million years." Liam watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable. Ethan didn't know who this guy was or what he meant to Jamie, but he owed him for keeping his brother safe. "Thank you," Ethan said, meeting Liam's gaze. "For looking out for him." Liam nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "He's worth it." The loft smelled of turpentine and coffee, a strange comfort in its messiness. Ethan sat across from Jamie on a sagging couch, the silence between them heavy with unspoken questions. Jamie's hands fidgeted, picking at a loose thread on his hoodie, his eyes darting to Liam, who was quietly sketching in the corner. Ethan wanted to ask 1,000 things. How Jamie ended up here, what happened the night their father threw him out, but he started with the simplest. "You okay, kid?" Jamie nodded, but it was shaky, like he was trying to convince himself. "I'm fine. Liam's been good to me." His voice softened on Liam's name, and Ethan caught the glance they exchanged, brief but loaded with something deeper. It hit Ethan then. His little brother wasn't just crashing here. There was more to this story, and it was written in the way Jamie's shoulders relaxed when Liam was near. "Tell me what happened," Ethan said, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. "Everything." Jamie took a deep breath, his words tumbling out like they'd been bottled up too long. "It started 6 months ago, when Jamie, at 16, realized he wasn't like the other guys at school. He'd always known, deep down, but admitting it to himself, to his best friend, then to their parents, was like stepping onto a minefield. Their mother had cried, not out of anger, but fear, whispering about how hard the world would be. Their father, though, had erupted. "He called me a disgrace," Jamie said, his voice cracking. "Said I was no son of his. Gave me 10 minutes to pack and get out." Ethan's fists clenched, the image of his father's rage searing into him. He'd seen that temper before, Robert's unyielding sense of what a man should be, but never like this. "And Mom just let it happen?" "She tried," Jamie said, eyes glistening. "But Dad, he's Dad." "She was scared too. I didn't want to make it worse, so I left." Ethan's throat tightened. He'd been in a war zone, facing death daily. But this, his little brother, alone, rejected, felt like a betrayal he couldn't fight with fists or guns. "Where'd you go?" "At first, nowhere," Jamie admitted. "I slept in the park for a couple nights, then at the library until they started locking up earlier. I don't know, lost. Then I met Liam." He glanced at Liam again, a small smile breaking through. "He saw me sketching outside the diner one day. Said my art was good. Offered me a place to crash." Ethan looked at Liam, who'd paused his sketching to listen. The guy was older than Jamie, maybe 22, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that seemed to see more than they let on. Ethan didn't know whether to thank him or interrogate him. "You took in a kid you didn't know?" he asked, not hiding his skepticism. Liam shrugged, setting his pencil down. "He wasn't a kid to me. He was someone who needed a friend. And he's got talent, real talent. You should see his sketches." Ethan didn't know what to make of that, but Jamie's face lit up, and that was enough for now. "Show me," Ethan said, softening. Jamie hesitated, then grabbed a sketchbook from a nearby table, flipping it open to pages filled with intricate drawings, cityscapes, faces, moments captured in pencil and ink. Ethan recognized Willow Creek's main street in one, their old treehouse in another. The detail, the emotion, it was Jamie. Raw and real. "You're good," Ethan said, his voice thick. "Really good." Jamie ducked his head, blushing. "Thanks. Liam's been teaching me. He's got a show coming up at a gallery downtown. Said I could help." Ethan nodded, piecing together the dynamic. Liam wasn't just a good Samaritan. He was someone Jamie trusted, maybe even loved. The thought stirred a mix of protectiveness and relief in Ethan. He wanted to know more, but the weight of the last 24 hours was catching up. "You're staying here for now?" he asked. "Yeah," Jamie said. "If that's okay with you." "It's more than okay," Ethan said firmly. "But we're going to figure this out. You're not staying on the streets, and you're not hiding from me again." "Got it," Jamie nodded, tears spilling over. Ethan pulled him into another hug, feeling the fragility of his brother's frame, the weight of everything he'd been through. Over Jamie's shoulder, he met Liam's eyes, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Liam wasn't family, not yet, but he'd kept Jamie safe when Ethan couldn't. That meant something. The next day, Ethan took Jamie to the diner for breakfast, hoping familiar ground would loosen the tension between them. The place was packed, the air thick with the smell of bacon and coffee. They slid into a booth, and Jamie picked at his pancakes, quieter than Ethan remembered him being. "You used to talk my ear off," Ethan teased, trying to lighten the mood. "What's up?" Jamie shrugged. "Just a lot's changed." "I didn't know if you'd be okay with me." Ethan set his coffee down, leaning in. "Jamie, you're my brother. Nothing changes that. I don't care who you love, as long as they're good to you." "Are they?" Is Liam? Jamie's cheeks flushed, but he nodded. "Yeah. He gets me. Doesn't try to make me someone I'm not." Ethan exhaled, relief washing over him. "Good. Then he's all right in my book. But I'm still going to keep an eye on him." Jamie laughed, the sound like a crack in a dam, letting some of the old lightness through. They talked for hours about Ethan's time overseas, Jamie's art, the future. But the shadow of their father loomed. Ethan knew he'd have to confront Robert again, not just for answers, but for some kind of resolution. Jamie deserved that much. By afternoon, they were back at the loft, where Liam was prepping for his gallery show. Canvases leaned against every wall, bold slashes of color telling stories Ethan couldn't quite read. "You're really doing this?" "Huh," Ethan said, gesturing to the chaos. Liam grinned, wiping paint off his hands. "Trying to. Jamie's been a big help. He's got an eye for composition." Ethan watched them work together, Jamie pointing out a detail on a painting, Liam nodding like it was the most important thing he'd heard all day. There was a rhythm to them, a quiet trust that made Ethan's chest ache. He'd missed so much, been gone too long. But he was here now, and he'd be damned if he let his family, or what was left of it, fall apart. The gallery show was a week away, and the loft buzzed with nervous energy. Ethan found himself spending more time there, drawn in by Jamie's excitement and Liam's quiet determination. The space, once foreign, was starting to feel like a refuge, a place where Jamie could be himself without fear. Ethan helped where he could, hauling canvases and fetching coffee. But mostly he watched, marveling at how his brother had carved out a life in the wreckage of their family's rejection. One evening, as they sorted through Liam's paintings, Ethan noticed a sketch tucked under a pile of supplies. It was Jamie's, a portrait of two figures under a tree, hands intertwined, faces blurred but full of feeling. Ethan recognized the hill from their childhood, where they'd spent hours dreaming up adventures. "This you and Liam?" he asked, holding it up. Jamie froze, then nodded, his cheeks pink. "Yeah. It's how I feel when I'm with him." Safe. Ethan studied the drawing, the tenderness in every line. "It's beautiful, kid. You should show it at the gallery." Jamie's eyes widened. "You think? It's not like Liam's stuff." "His is professional. Doesn't matter," Ethan said. "It's real." "That's what people connect to," Liam overheard, joining them with a curious look. "He's right. Jamie, you've got something special. Let's frame it." The decision to include Jamie's piece sparked a shift in him, a spark of confidence Ethan hadn't seen since he was a kid. But it also brought up questions Ethan hadn't dared ask. "So, you and Liam," he said later, when they were alone on the loft's fire escape, the city lights flickering below. "You love him?" Jamie stared at the horizon, his breath visible in the chilly air. "I think so. It's new, and it's scary, but yeah. He makes me feel like I'm enough." Ethan nodded, his heart swelling and aching at once. He'd spent 2 years fighting for freedom, only to come home and find his brother denied it in his own house. "You are enough," he said fiercely. "Don't ever let anyone, Dad, me, anyone, make you feel otherwise." Jamie's eyes glistened, and he leaned against Ethan, the way he used to when they were kids. For a moment, they were just brothers again, not a soldier and a runaway, not a hero and a kid who'd been hurt. But the moment didn't last. Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from their mother. "Your father wants to talk. Come home tonight." The Caldwell house felt like a battlefield when Ethan walked in. His mother sat at the kitchen table, her hands clasped tightly, while Robert stood by the window, his back rigid. The air crackled with tension, and Ethan braced himself, knowing this wouldn't be easy. "You've been with Jamie," Robert said, not turning around. It wasn't a question. "Yeah," Ethan replied, crossing his arms. "Found him in a loft downtown, living with some artist. He's safe. No thanks to you." Robert flinched but didn't face him. "I did what I thought was right." "Right?" Ethan's voice rose, sharp and unyielding. "You threw out your kid, Dad. He was 16, scared, and you left him with nothing. How's that right?" "He chose to live in sin," Robert said, finally turning, his face a mask of stubborn conviction. "I won't condone it." Ethan stepped closer, his voice low but burning. "You don't get to decide who he loves. You don't get to decide who he is. He's your son, Dad. My brother. And you broke him." Robert's jaw worked, but no words came. Ethan's mother reached for his hand, her voice trembling. "Ethan, please. We want him back." "I want him back." "Then why didn't you fight for him?" Ethan asked, his anger spilling over. "Why didn't you stop this?" "I was weak," she whispered, tears falling. "I didn't know how to stand up to your father." "I'm sorry." The apology hung in the air, fragile and incomplete. Ethan wanted to scream, to shake them both until they understood the damage they'd done. But he saw the pain in his mother's eyes, the crack in his father's armor. And he knew yelling wouldn't fix this. "Jamie's not coming back here unless things change," he said. "He deserves to feel safe. Loved. If you can't give him that, I will." He left them in silence, the weight of his words settling like dust. Outside, the night was cold, but Ethan felt a fire in his chest. He wasn't just fighting for Jamie now, he was fighting for the family they could still be. Back at the loft, the gallery show was 2 days away, and Jamie was a bundle of nerves. Ethan watched him pace, muttering about his sketch, while Liam coached him through it with a patience that made Ethan like him a little more. "You've got this," Liam said, resting a hand on Jamie's shoulder. "Your art's gonna steal the show." Ethan couldn't help but smile. Liam was good for Jamie, grounding him in a way Ethan hadn't expected. But as the show loomed, so did the question of their parents. Ethan hadn't told Jamie about the confrontation yet, unsure how to break it without reopening wounds. He decided to wait until after the show, when Jamie's confidence was high. The night of the gallery show arrived, and the loft transformed into a makeshift exhibition space. Locals, artists, and curious passers-by filled the room, their voices mingling with soft jazz from a speaker in the corner. Jamie's sketch hung proudly among Liam's paintings, its simple frame drawing eyes for its raw emotion. Ethan stood by it, watching strangers pause, whisper, and nod, their faces reflecting something like understanding. Jamie found him there, his eyes bright with a mix of fear and pride. "People like it," he said, almost disbelieving. "They actually like it. Of course they do," Ethan said, slinging an arm around him. "It's you, Jamie." "It's real." As the night wore on, Ethan noticed a familiar figure at the door. His mother, hesitant, her coat clutched tightly around her. She hadn't come to the house since Jamie left, and her presence now felt like a fragile olive branch. Ethan nudged Jamie, who froze, his face a mix of hope and dread. "She's here," Ethan said softly. "Go talk to her." Jamie hesitated, his eyes locked on their mother across the crowded gallery. Ethan gave him a gentle push, his hand steady on Jamie's back. "You don't have to forgive her tonight," he said. "Just hear her out." Jamie nodded, his steps slow but deliberate as he crossed the room, weaving through strangers who had no idea of the weight he carried. Ethan watched from a distance, his chest tight. His mother's face softened as Jamie approached, her hands reaching out but stopping short, as if afraid to break the moment. They spoke quietly, their words lost in the hum of the crowd. But Ethan saw Jamie's shoulders relax, just a fraction. It wasn't reconciliation, not yet, but it was a start. Liam appeared at Ethan's side, holding 2 cups of cheap wine. "She's trying," he said, handing Ethan a cup. "That's something, right?" "Yeah," Ethan said, taking a sip. "But it's not enough." "Not yet," Liam nodded, his gaze lingering on Jamie. "He's stronger than he looks. He'll get through this." Ethan studied Liam, the way his eyes tracked Jamie with quiet devotion. "You really care about him, don't you?" "More than I thought I could," Liam admitted, his voice low. He's it for me." The honesty hit Ethan hard. He'd seen love in war zones, fleeting, desperate moments between soldiers who knew tomorrow wasn't guaranteed, but this was different. It was steady, rooted, the kind of love that rebuilt what was broken. "Take care of him," Ethan said, his voice gruff. "Or you'll answer to me." Liam's lips quirked. "Noted, Captain," The night ended with Jamie's sketch sold to a local art collector. A small victory that left him beaming. Ethan drove him and Liam back to the loft. The three of them laughing about the pretentious gallery goers and their overpriced wine. For the first time since he'd stepped off that bus, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they could build something new, something better. The next morning, Ethan woke to a text from his mother. "Can we talk? All of us." He showed it to Jamie over breakfast, expecting resistance. But Jamie just nodded. "Okay." "But only if Dad's not there." Ethan agreed, and they arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown, a neutral space where the past couldn't suffocate them. The shop was cozy, with mismatched chairs and the smell of fresh pastries. Their mother was already there, her hands wrapped around a mug, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. Jamie sat across from her, Ethan at his side, and for a moment, no one spoke. "I'm so sorry, Jamie," she began, her voice trembling. "I failed you. I let your father's anger take over, and I didn't fight hard enough. I want to make this right." Jamie's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "Why didn't you stop him? Why didn't you call me?" "I was scared," she admitted. "Of losing you both. Of making things worse. But I was wrong. I should have fought for you. No matter what." Ethan watched Jamie process her words, his face a storm of emotions. "I needed you," Jamie said finally, his voice raw. "I was so alone." "I know," she whispered, tears spilling over. "I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me." Jamie didn't answer right away, but he reached for her hand, a small gesture that felt like a bridge. Ethan stayed quiet, letting them find their way. He knew this was only the beginning. Forgiveness was a long road, and their father was still a wall between them. But for now, this was enough. Ethan spent the next few days helping Jamie and Liam at the loft, but his mind kept circling back to Robert. He couldn't let it go, not the betrayal, not the image of Jamie sleeping in a park because of their father's pride. He decided to confront him again, this time alone, at the VFW hall where Robert spent most evenings. The hall was quieter this time, the bar half empty. Robert sat alone, nursing a beer, his face lined with something Ethan hadn't seen before: regret. Maybe. Or exhaustion. "You here to yell at me again?" Robert asked, not looking up. "Maybe," Ethan said, sliding onto a stool. "But I'm also here to understand. Why'd you do it? Dad, why'd you turn your back on him?" Robert sighed, his shoulders slumping. "I thought I was protecting him. Teaching him to be strong. To be right. I grew up in a different time. Ethan. Men didn't live like that. That's no excuse," Ethan said, his voice steady but sharp. "You hurt him. You broke our family." Robert met his eyes, and for the first time, Ethan saw something crack. "I know," he said quietly. "I see his face every night. Ethan. I don't know how to fix it." "Then start," Ethan said. "Apologize. Mean it. He's your son, Dad. He's still the same kid who wanted to be like you." Robert looked away, his hands trembling around the bottle. "What if he doesn't want me back?" "Then you keep trying," Ethan said. "You don't give up on family." He left Robert there, hoping his words had landed. Back at the loft, he found Jamie and Liam painting, their laughter filling the space. Jamie was starting to look like himself again, the shadows under his eyes fading. Ethan knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were wounds that words couldn't heal overnight, but he'd fight for this. For Jamie's happiness. For the family they could still be. Weeks passed, and the loft became a second home for Ethan. He'd rented a small apartment nearby, but he spent most of his time with Jamie and Liam, helping with art projects or just talking over takeout. Jamie was blooming, his sketches filling every corner of the loft, his confidence growing with every piece he shared. Ethan saw the way Liam anchored him, the way their hands brushed when they passed a paintbrush, and it stirred a quiet pride. His brother was building a life, despite everything. Their mother visited often, bringing homemade cookies and cautious hope. She and Jamie were finding their way back, one conversation at a time. But Robert remained a ghost, absent from the loft and the coffee shop meetings. Ethan hadn't pushed, Jamie wasn't ready. And neither was he, but the unfinished business gnawed at him. He wanted closure, not just for Jamie, but for himself. One crisp morning, as Ethan helped Jamie hang a new piece in the loft, a knock came at the door. Liam opened it, and there stood Robert, his face etched with uncertainty, a small box in his hands. Ethan tensed, stepping in front of Jamie instinctively. "Dad," he said, his voice low. "What are you doing here?" I came to see Jamie," Robert said, his eyes flickering to his youngest son. Jamie stood frozen, his expression unreadable. Liam glanced at Jamie, then at Ethan, silently asking if he should stay. Ethan nodded for him to go, and Liam slipped into the back room, giving them space. The air was thick, every second stretching into eternity. "Jamie," Robert began, his voice rough. "I was wrong. I was so wrong. I thought I was doing what was best, but I hurt you. I failed you." Jamie's eyes narrowed, his arms crossed. "You threw me out, Dad. You said I wasn't your son." Robert winced, the box trembling in his hands. "I know. I can't undo that, but I'm here to try. I want to understand. Jamie, I want to be your father again, if you'll let me." He held out the box, and Jamie took it, hesitant. Inside was a worn sketchbook, one Jamie had left behind when he was kicked out. The pages were filled with childhood drawings, memories of their family before it fractured. "I kept it," Robert said. "I couldn't let it go. It reminded me of you." Jamie's fingers traced the cover, his eyes glistening. "You don't get it, Dad. It's not just about saying sorry. You made me feel like I was nothing." "I know," Robert said, his voice breaking. "And I'll live with that shame forever. But I love you, Jamie. I always will." Ethan watched, his heart in his throat. Jamie didn't speak, but he didn't turn away either. It was a crack, a sliver of possibility. Robert left the loft that day without a hug or a promise, but he left the door open, and that was enough for now. Months later, spring arrived, painting Willow Creek in soft greens and pinks. Jamie's art was gaining attention, with a second gallery show planned, this time featuring his work alongside Liam's. Ethan was there every step, helping with logistics and cheering louder than anyone. Their mother attended every event, her pride in Jamie a quiet apology that grew stronger with time. Robert started showing up too, not always, but enough. He'd linger at the edges of the gallery, studying Jamie's sketches with a look Ethan couldn't quite read. They were small steps, awkward and imperfect, but they were steps. Jamie didn't forgive easily, and Ethan didn't blame him, but he saw the way Jamie's eyes softened when Robert asked about a drawing or brought him a coffee. One evening, as the three of them, Ethan, Jamie, and Liam, sat on the hill from Jamie's sketch, watching the sunset, Ethan felt a peace he hadn't known in years. Jamie leaned against Liam, their hands intertwined, while Ethan stretched out on the grass, the weight of 730 days finally lifting. "You ever think about the future?" Jamie asked, his voice quiet. "All the time," Ethan said. "You?" "Yeah," Jamie said, glancing at Liam. "I want to keep making art. Maybe travel with Liam. See the world." Liam smiled, squeezing Jamie's hand. "We'll figure it out." Together, Ethan looked at them, his brother and the man who'd become family, and knew they would. The road hadn't been easy. There were scars that might never fade, but they'd found something stronger than pain. Love, resilience, the courage to be themselves. And Ethan, the soldier who'd come home to a broken family, had found his purpose to stand by them, no matter what. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan closed his eyes, the warmth of the moment wrapping around him. They weren't perfect, but they were whole. And that was enough.